So I thought I'd pull out a few of my fleeces that I've got stashed away and do a bit of dyeing of them. This one is a Corriedale fleece, a brown one, and it has been coated, so there's no real vegetable matter on ends. Oh, but there is a bug there, a dead bug. So a millipede actually, so I don't know how that got in there. Right, this fleece actually is probably about 6 years old and it's a bit stiff and waxy, but we'll get it washed and dyed and see how it turns out. Somebody did ask me about, can you dye the coloured fleeces? So I thought we'd dye this one. There's a bit of white in it and it's a more of a beigey caramel colour. Okay, so that's the staple length. So we'll I will put it on to soak in water first, but I won't wash it. We'll just put the earth palette dyes on straight onto the unwashed fleece, but I will soak it to make sure it absorbs the dye and gets coated with the dye, especially as it's quite waxy. Okay, so I shall be back. So I thought I'd show you the whole process of dyeing this fleece. One of my mesh bags. I'm going to put the fleece into this and then I've got a bucket ready here for it. The bucket's got a little bit of the surfactant or the detergent. Best to use one with no enzymes added because otherwise it damages it, or it can damage the fleece. You might not see the damage, but you can feel it because it can make it a little bit harsher to the feel. And especially if you've got a nice soft fleece, you don't really want that. And then I'm just going to push it in. It's cold water, straight out the tap. I'm going to push it in. And I'm just going to, so this water, sorry, I didn't finish what I was saying. This water has got the surfactant in it and it's also got a little bit of citric acid in there. I just think that adding a bit of extra citric acid helps the dyes to set. The earth palette dyes to set, even though they already have it in the dye liquor. I just like to add a little bit extra just to make sure. So we're back with our fleece. This is our Corriedale brown fleece. As you can see, there's quite a lot of dirt has come out of it, even though it's just been sitting in cold water in this mesh bag. So I'll take it out of there and I'm just going to put it actually back in the bucket. I'll move that out of the way. And then I just squeeze it. So that a lot of I don't wring it out, I just press down on it and get quite a lot of the water out. And then I'll move my bucket out the way. I'll show you first actually. Okay, so you can see how much dirt has already come out of that. Tip it out. So this is our fleece. As you can see, it's quite wet. Now to dye this fleece, I'm going to use colours that I think will go well on the brown. It's actually really quite a nice colour anyway, but we don't want to make colours that aren't going to show up. So today I've chosen 4 colours. I've chosen orange, these are the turquoise, rubine and purple, because I think all of those will actually come up quite nicely on this fleece. And then I will have to steam it because it was supposed to be a bit warmer today, but it hasn't eventuated. So okay, now so we'll start on this end just with the orange. And the turquoise, yeah, I might swap them around and do the rubine next, because if I put the turquoise next to the orange, the colour in between isn't going to be that good. So, and I might even, yeah, well, we'll leave them like that. Okay, so this is the rubine. These colours they're not going to make nice bright colours because this fleece is already brown. But it will give it darker tones in that colour. Okay, so this is the turquoise. This will probably make the most difference on this brown fibre anyway. And then I'll use the purple. Now I'm going to go back to my rubine before I use my orange, because otherwise the purple and the orange is only going to give me a bit of a dull browny colour anyway. It's not going to really make a very nice colour on this fleece. And then I'll put orange on last again. Now you'll see, I'll wipe my hand, you'll see that the colours probably haven't gone all the way through, because that's the good thing about the earth palette dyes. They don't rush all the way through to the bottom and just pull and make a dodgy colour. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave the fleece like that, and then I'm going to wrap it up, and I will steam it, as I said, because it's still quite cold today, despite what our forecast was supposed to be. And then we'll come back tomorrow and actually have a look. Once it's cooled down and set, I'm just squishing it through a bit. So you can see some of it's come through to the other side, but a lot of it hasn't. But that's not going to really worry me too much. I'm just going to put it onto steam and show you tomorrow how it's looking. So I've brought our Corriedale fleece back, that brown Corriedale fleece back, and I've unwrapped it to have a look at it a bit, but I will show you, because this was dyed with the grease in and unwashed, and a lot of the dye won't stick to the fleece because of that grease. You will get, sorry, it will stick to the fleece, but you'll get a lot more rinse off than you would if it was washed fleece with absolutely no grease on it. So it won't, you know, so, and as you can see, a lot of that is just dirty water coming off. So some dye will be lost because of the grease in the fleece. Oh, it rhymes. Okay, so I will put this in my twin tub. Well, first of all, I'll put it in a bag. And then I will spin it out. This will be a bit messy, I can see that. Let's see if we can pick it all up. Okay, it's not too bad. With my trusty old mesh bag with the broken zip. Okay, so I put these in the spinner on my twin tub to get most of the water out before I rinse, and I'll come back and show it to you when I first put it in the rinse water, so you can see how much dirt comes out and also how much dye comes loose as well. So this is our Corriedale fleece, our brown Corriedale fleece. It's quite wet. Well, there's a bit of vegetable matter in there. We'll take that out. So I've spun the water out, and so it's like spun dry. So you can see the colours have come quite rich on them. But I will put it back in its bag, mesh bag, because it's much easier to handle like that. And I'll show you what happens when I put it into cold water. I've got a bucket of cold water here, and we'll see how much dirt and water comes out, and then I will give it a wash in hot water. So if you're putting it in cold water, wool doesn't tend to felt if it's just cold water. Okay, so there's not a lot of dye coming out of this, as you can see. There's a lot of a milky coloured water. The milky colour is from the detergent or the surfactant and the grease on the fleece mixing together. So I'm just going to push it down a couple of times to rinse some of it off, but most of that's dirt and dissolved grease. Okay. So now I will spin this out again. I'm just going to leave it sitting in this bucket for a while actually, then I'll spin it out again and give it a hot wash, and then I'll put it out to dry. So I thought I'd come back and show you the whole process of this fleece washing with the coloured fleece that we've dyed. Now in this bucket I've got very hot water. I don't really want to put my hands in that. And the mesh bag that has our Corriedale fleece in, I've just put it in the top, pushed it down. This is the Tan-Tech fibre scour. It is made in Australia. It's all natural product. Okay, so I've got my hot water in there, the fibre scour, and my fleece, and I've got this handy dandy little doodad, which is just a piece of broomstick doweling. It was actually part of a tail rail that we took off, and I use this to push it down because I don't always want to stick my hands in the bucket that's got whatever I'm washing or soaking in. Okay, so as you can see, there's not a lot of stuff in there, and I just poke it down a couple of times, make sure all the fleece has been washed and covered. I'll let it sit in there for about 10 minutes, and then I will take it out while that water is still very hot to make sure that the grease washes away. So it's the next day, and this fleece has dried quite a lot. It's actually not bone dry yet, but it's dry enough to have a look and see how it's turned out. Okay, so we had our orange, our rubine, our turquoise, our purple, and then we put the rubine and orange again. Now so this is how the orange has dyed. Right, I'll pull out a piece of the rubine. I might as well pull out a piece of all of them while I'm at it. Yeah, see, this is a bit damp here. Perhaps I'll try and get a dry bit from here. The orange up the other end, and a bit of the rubine here. Okay, so not sure if that one's upside down. We better turn it up the right way. So as you can see on the brown fleece, this has actually not turned out too bad. You know, all of those colours go quite well over the brown fleece. The orange has particularly come up nice, and so has the rubine. So, and our fleece is nice and soft and easy to pull apart. So all that, this one's still a bit damp on the end, so it's hanging together a bit there. So it's a nice, easy to work with fleece, and it'll be pretty cool, I think, to, do we have purple in there? I think we did, yeah. So the fleece is dyed, not quite on the end, but then along the staple, it's dyed differently where it's blended. So I hope you've enjoyed this dyeing video. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe, and if there's anything you particularly want to see me do with the earth palette dyes, feel free to make a suggestion in the comments, and thanks for joining me.